you're looking for something in these men or women that is missing inside you,
Absolutely.
right? And
Absolutely.
I think sometimes it's a hard conversation to ask yourself, why am I broken? Or why am I still broken despite me having the career, having the house, having the car? What do you think are some of the commonalities that keep people unaware of how bad their relationships are, even though hindsight is 2020, but while they're in it, they seem to have blurred vision, so to speak.
It's the carrot they dangle. I mean, I also, after that marriage, I went into another marriage and I went from domestic violence to narcissistic. And they have similar but very different traits. And um, I didn't realize I was going from a domestic abusive relationship to a narcissistic relationship. I had no clue whatsoever. I thought they were completely opposite types of people, but there's not. And once the mask slipped, there's very similar things underneath. Um, I I think that some of the commonalities, I wouldn't say that we were broken. The things we were looking for that weren't in ourselves. I say, as I said, I came from a totally loving family. There was nothing that was broken. It was just an unfinished job. Um, I I came from a religious family, and I believed that everybody was good. I believed nobody told lies. I was very naive in that respect. Perhaps there's some naivety in many of us, believing the other person is telling the truth. And it's also the dangling of the carrot. They are very good at saying, oh, well, this time next year, I will be doing this and you will be next to me doing this. And they paint a picture. And you're like, oh, I'm really looking forward to that. And then mm, I know that they say that women have cycles. I believe men have cycles as well. And they can act good for a period of time. Then along comes the full moon and they're not so good anymore. Um, and then the mask slips again and you see something of that face. But because there's like 3 or 4 weeks in between the episodes, if we say, you sort of get cajoled into it's going to be better because they have learnt from the previous episode, they've learnt their lesson how to not behave and they tweak it a little bit. So when it comes back, it's slightly different, it's not quite the same. And you've been painted this great picture in between. So you've gone on this fairground ride with them, like getting better. And then they do something not quite the same. So it's not a repeating pattern. There's something similar, but it's something different at the same time.
It's like they push you just far enough before you break, then they bring you back.
Mm-hmm.
Then they
Yeah.
push you again, right? Like, let's say, for example, they push you 10 feet, then they bring you
Mm-hmm.
back. Then they push you 12, then they bring you back. And
Yeah.
then 15. And it's kind of diabolical in a way,
Mm-hmm.
but there's like a method to their madness, right? Because they know how to find the people that they can do it. Because here's a funny thing: you don't ever hear a narcissist dating a narcissist, right? Or like an abusive person dating abusive. Because how would they look like? There'd be like chaos throughout the
It is.
household,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It's quite often.
Right?
So I think
It's like two bulls in one house, just running and destroying everything. But I do feel for a lot of the women who find themselves in this situation because women in general probably are more nurturing, more sympathetic, more empathetic.
yes.
Many times they want to feel like they can fix the person they're with,
Yeah.
right? Like, oh, he's not that bad. He just needs a little bit of, tape and a little bit of glue, and I can be the one that provides that, not realizing that they're damaging themselves in this way. And I wonder how many women fall into the trap when they're dealing with a narcissist or someone who's abusive to them, where they become codependent, where now they lose themselves, their identity, and they become not only, they go from, let's say, Amanda to, okay, I'm the abuser's wife, I'm the narcissist's wife. I am, you know, I'm not Amanda anymore. I'm not Terrain anymore. I'm a survivor, right? Even though that's a good thing, like you want to survive it, but are you Terrain the survivor or are you something else? Right? Like, talk to me about your state of mind as you came out of both of those situations and you wanted to not be that person anymore, but you wanted to be a better version of yourself, a version where you can identify the red flags or the yellow flags to ensure that you don't fall into that type of relationship again.
Mm. It's a long. Mm. It depends on how long you have been in these relationships and how bad they were. Um, I'm often, you often hear, do you think him hitting me or being violent to me is worse than him cheating on me? And I do have a little bit to say on that. It really, how far you're going to be pushed and where your edge is depends on a couple of things. What is your core values? And when they've breached your core values, if they breached your core values, it's going to be worse for you, depending on what your core values are. And what happens is when you talk about the state of mind, depending on how long this has gone on for, the more identity and the more of your core essence you lose because they are, as you said a moment ago, they push you 12 and then you come back, and they push you 12 and then you come back. That's because the narcissistic has to keep his muse close. So he's always going to bring you back, whether it's well, male or female. They have to keep you close. You're their muse, and they need you. They need to feed off your energy. They want to be, in some ways, they want to be you. They want to emulate you. They love that you're empathetic. They love that you're caring. They love that you have this big heart and that you can do things. They love that. So they want to keep it close. Um, so when you go through this, they denigrate you because they sort of like suck you up into them and they want to be that person, well, you. Um, and your state of mind is in a couple of things: mental chaos and emotional numbness. Um, from the chaos comes from one drama, you've hardly recovered and you've got the next drama. You can't remember exactly what happened and you're recovering and the next one comes along. So that's the mental chaos. And the emotional numbness comes as a consequence of that because how can you how you feel about something if you haven't been given the time to recover from it?